Well, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon on this. Ooh, it is Friday. It is Friday. It is Friday. But then again, those that work on Saturday, they're going to have to do the same thing on tomorrow. I am Portia Wheatley. I am the founder and the president of a nonprofit organization acknowledged as Trophy of Life Incorporated. And we have the great opportunity, the great privilege, and most of all, the God assignment to render hope, encouragement, and inspiration to you, our audience, across the whole wide world. And I am so grateful to have the opportunity to be able to do that because I become his instrument. And I am so grateful to God that he trusted me enough to have this platform, which is acknowledged as Project 365, where again, we have the opportunity. It is an opportunity, a privilege, and an honor, but most of all, the God assignment to render hope, encouragement, and inspiration to you, our audience. Well, before we release our guests to the platform, we wanted to extend an invitation to you to become a part of our team. Now, we meaning Takira and I, we cannot do this thing by ourselves. We cannot do this all alone. So we want you to become a part of our team and become a part of those individuals who share hope, encouragement. I love saying that. Hope, encouragement, and inspiration to you, our audience. So go to our YouTube channel and subscribe, like, comment, whatever you want to do that you feel necessary to get this message to the whole wide world. And you're a part of the team just like that. Well, today we have a great opportunity to share the platform with a young man who is, oh man, I met him one time. And believe it or not, I met him at my sister's funeral. And his services they were just impeccable. And I'm like, who is this young man? Because I've been knowing the business in which he is the owner of. I do believe he is the owner of. And I'm like, I don't remember seeing him, but I tell you what, he made such an impression on the services that he rendered to our family that I'm like, I got to get this young man, and not just young man, a young African-American Black man. So I am so glad to have the opportunity to share the platform with him so that we can actually encourage our young people. We can encourage our sons. We can encourage those who need to be encouraged. And we're going to do that today through Zhaden Myster. I got to tell you this, the way his last name is spelled, I'm like, okay, when you get a little older, Mister, but it's not Mister, it's Myster. But either way, we make sure he he is addressed properly. But Zhaden, thank you so very much for accepting my invitation to come and share. It's just amazing. I am so grateful to God for the work that you do and the spirit of excellence that you do it in. And there's just the topic of your principles and your do's and your don'ts and just the different things. I want you to share that so that other people, other men, other fathers, other brothers can be encouraged, knowing that they can soar and soar and soar. All right, I'm releasing the platform to you. Blessings.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. As it has said, I'm Zhaden T. Myster, and the newly appointed president and owner of Henry Funeral Home, located in Cambridge, Maryland. I'm continuing the legacy of the late Janelle C. Henry Buck and her father, the late Charles Henry. Henry Funeral Home has been an icon in the community for the past 35 years, serving those in what is seen as one of the most difficult times. Under my leadership, we embody the same reputation of quality and caring services as set forth by our founders, offering unparalleled service, all while embracing innovation. And to my knowledge, we are the only funeral home on Maryland's Eastern Shore, which is both owned and operated by a millennial. I'll start a little bit about sharing with you my journey. I remember coming to Henry Funeral Home years ago, probably when I was about 8 years old with my mother, who was a licensed mortician in the state of Maryland. And I was scared of death. Janelle and her husband were my neighbors, So I would come up here and do different things. If my mother would be here late, I would be up here with her. But again, as I said, I was afraid of death. Um, Looking forward down the line a little, my mother ended up taking a position at another firm in which I had the opportunity to attend a meeting with the owner. And as I was sitting there, the owner goes, "When is your son going to start working? Is your son interested?" And my first reaction was, "No, that's not me. That's not me." And I never forget, after she had been there a little while, the owner called one day. They were shorthanded, and he said, I need your son. So I put on my big boy pants and I worked the service. And I tell you, since I started working that one service, I've never stopped. I fell in love with funeral service. Um, I'll share a little bit about my licensing story and going back and how I started. I started working the services at the firm, and I was just part-time help. I was working at the car dealer at that time. And as you know, Saturdays and funerals are important, as well as the Saturdays are important in the car business. So luckily I had a manager at the time that was willing, and he knew my passion for funeral service. So he would let me work half of the day at the dealer and then do funeral services. So after doing that a little while, it was tough. It wasn't working. I was kind of torn in between the two. I decided to take a job in a whole different field, and it attracted me because it was an 8 to 5. Needless to say, I got there and it just was not me. I wasn't comfortable. I didn't like the job. But as I look back now, I realize as I was sitting in that job, I used to get a call every week from the gentleman who was doing the scheduling at the firm. And he would always say, "Are you available Saturday? Are you available Saturday? Are you available Saturday?" So, and I would always say yes and yes and yes. So after being at that job for a year, I was actually offered a full-time position at my previous funeral home. And looking back now, and I realized, had I not taken that 1 year break, had I not been put in an uncomfortable situation, had I not gone through something that I didn't want to go through, I would not have had that opportunity to have that full-time position. So I just say, you go through things, you don't know why at that point, but it always makes sense in the long run. So after being accepted a position full-time at that firm, worked there for 3 or 4 years. I was comfortable. Things were going well. I didn't have a reason to leave, all while I was trying to obtain my mortician's license in the state of Maryland. It was a long journey, long process. There are tests you have to take, things you have to do in order to obtain your license in the state of Maryland. And they designed the test not so that you learn and you pass by memory, but you have to know everything. So trying to take the test. I had done 2 previous attempts and they were unsuccessful. In that time, I had talked to Janelle about employment here at Henry Funeral Home, and we talked, and it had been about a year that we had been talking. So things didn't happen. Things didn't happen quickly. It had been about a year, and then when we finally had the conversation, it should have been about 3 months that I had come here on an apprentice license, and then I would have been a fully licensed mortician in the state of Maryland. It didn't go that way. I came here, took the test again, and I didn't pass it. I had the support of Janelle and I had the support of my family, but it wasn't much they could do for me simply because they weren't sitting for the test and things changed. So the information they had from 20 and 30 years ago, it wasn't relevant to today's time. So I continued to study and study and study and study, passed the test, passed the test, and then I completed the paperwork for the State Board of Morticians, and I was awarded my mortician's license. And 6 days later, there's no more Janelle. There was no more mentor. There was no more pat on the back, she was gone. So it kind of left the weight of everything on everyone that was left here at Henry Funeral Home. So I kind of want to start by just saying, find one thing, stick to it, do it well, and don't stop, and simply don't be afraid to jump. As I think back, several people told me not to leave the firm that I left to come here. They said things wouldn't work out, you won't like it there. They gave me every reason why I should have stayed in a comfortable position, but they didn't give me one reason why I shouldn't have stayed in a comfortable position. So looking back, I say jump. Make up in your mind, find something that you like to do and stick to it. Don't be one of those who find several things that you like to do, because you'll never live up to your full potential. Find that one thing that you like to do and go for it. Offer some advice to some seasoned business owners,
Okay.
just to back up a little bit. In this journey, I've had to it's stressful. So I've had to lean on a lot of inspirational things to keep me going. Every morning, I have to listen to something before I get into work, just to set my mind for the time. And I find myself often listening to TD Jakes, and something that has always kept me going. He always mentions passing things on to the younger generation. And I say that to say, we all have to be willing to embrace change and invest on those beneath us, because the things that we have built and the things that, we are building, they can't move on unless we put it in the hands of someone who has years and years to continue to build what has been started. I remember him speaking of having dreamed of something but not having the capacity to fulfill it, and that's something that you don't want to do. So again, I say those more seasoned business owners, please embrace us. We need your help, but don't be afraid to embrace us and allow us to offer those changes and do those things that will help your legacy after you're gone. And I can say that looking back, under the leadership of Janelle, when I bought things to her, she didn't understand it at the moment, but she would always say, I hear you, I hear you. Then she graduated from I hear you to whatever you say. And she allowed me to do those things. And I believe allowing me to do those things, putting me out on the front, is why I'm able to continue that legacy. Again, I love things that TD Jakes says, and he spoke of in one particular message. He spoke about a bridge that was built years and years ago that collapsed, and after it was inspected, it's the inspector said it collapsed because it couldn't hold, it couldn't handle the weight. So I say that, and it couldn't handle the weight because it was built for the weight that it was
At that
supposed to
time.
hold back then at its
Yeah.
time. But that's not how things are. And to relate that to the funeral business, I remember at 28 years old, just 3 or 4 years ago, even burying 80 and 90 and 100-year-olds. But now things have changed. We now have 50-year-old, burying their 70 and 80-year-old parents. But now we have 25 and 26-year-olds bearing their 45 and 50-year-old parents, and then vice versa, 40-year-olds bearing their 18-year-old children. So things have changed, and hence I think the reason why I've been able to adapt is because I have a mix of the old and new. So again, I say, if you have built something and you plan for it to live far beyond your existence, don't be afraid to invest in those who are behind you, who who you have to leave a legacy. And with that, I say, what's for you, it's for you.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot say and express enough how much I hear, and they're not always positive things. Um, I hear it, but I don't let it get to me. I love to hear it because it lets me know how I need to set things up moving forward. But I don't let it get to me. So I say to the younger generation, listen to what people say. Um, always keep your ears open, but don't let the chatter stop you. Just keep going, keep going. Again, what's for you, it is for you. I don't know of a better situation. I remember having those conversations, contrary to what people may think. When I came to Henry Funeral Home, I said I wanted to maybe own, maybe do something by 30 years old. But look, it fell in my lap, and I had the opportunity to either run from it
Mm.
or run with it. And that's where that's where I am. Um, I say for those millennials that are looking to get into business, for lack of better terms, plan it out and don't let your plan out until you get it out. Be careful who you share things with. Um, they may seem as though they are on your side, but be careful what you let out. Pray about it. Um, and when it's done, go ahead and let it out. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask help. And one thing that I'd like to share, and I don't believe I've said this to anyone, kind of bothers me that I'm in this position and no one has asked me what I went through to get here. How did I do it? What can you teach me? And we have to help one another, older and younger generations. Let's build off of each other. Let's find out what I had to go through. What can you help me with? Um, so that way we can all make it. We need other businesses. Just because this is a funeral home, or just because your business is a, let's just say, a florist, you need other businesses to continue to, for your business to thrive. So, find somebody to work together. Throughout this journey, I had um, no business mentor. I did it all on
Wow.
my own. I had to look, and I had to seek resources online, and really the only resource I had was faith. Um, it took a while for things to happen, but all I can say is faith. And I say this along the journey, the contacts that I had to make going forward, it almost seemed as though they had been in my mind, because they would say things and I would say, how did you know about that? How did you know this person? And I know they had no idea, because a lot of those conversations, or a lot of those people they brought up, they were in my family. So I know they weren't in contact with these people. So I say, again, what's for you, it is for you. And if you follow God's plan, it will all work out. Um, Several principles I live by to achieve success. I'll tell you the main one. Here at Henry Funeral Home, and I don't want to make it all about a funeral home, but every person's loved one that goes out, I touch them personally. And I say it makes a big difference to me, because you have a lot of owners who sit back, and I'm not that kind of person. Um, I go to the services when families come in. I meet them. I take all of the calls after hours. When something occurs after hours, I am the one who calls you back. And I would say I just live by, not hiding, and you actually being the one who does to work. Have a team that you trust, but also be sure that you oversee that team, because ultimately it's your responsibility. Um, and really, I don't know what else to say. I'm thankful, that I'm here. I don't know how I continue to do it. Things you learn as you go in business. But again, if I had listened and if I had been afraid to jump, I don't know where I would have been. Honestly, if after the passing of Janelle, if the Henry Funeral Home had closed, I don't know where I would have imagined myself. And now, I can't imagine myself anywhere but here. And that's kind of a little bit about my journey.
Well, that was excellent. That was really good information, more so not just business information, excuse me, but information about just the journey itself. And I love in your sharing where it alluded to your determination. Though you did not have a mentor, you were determined in your mind to continue with the goal that you had in your mind. And when you talked about faith, hey, that is it. And the word you said, jump, with faith, you can jump. You can definitely jump. Then listening to, because you did not have someone, you were not surrounded by people that would say, oh, that's a good job. You can do this. You can do this, especially when Janelle passed on and you were still determined. And I would imagine even now, you're not necessarily so satisfied in the sense of it's always an opportunity to learn, always an opportunity to learn. But I know you're in good hands being there at the Henry Funeral Home. Now they've handled several of my family members, including my husband, and they were really good. They were really good at what they did because they are a caring funeral home. They're a caring family business. And I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful for the opportunity to meet you. And I pray to our audience that you would share this, not necessarily just because he's speaking of the business that he runs, and that's the Henry Funeral Home, but his business ethics. You can't beat that. When you have really good business ethics, it shows it, and you don't have to talk about the person that you are because in your actions it actually shows. And again, that's one of the reasons why I'm like, okay, we have to get him on another platform so that other young people can see when you stick to something else you said, when you stick to what you want to do or your goals or your dreams and what you've been created to do, be determined in your mind that you're going to research it, you're going to check it out, you're going to get information, you're going to reach out to whomever God places in your life to reach out to. And that thing, when you stick to it, it's going to happen. It will definitely happen. The other thing you said was talking about embracing, having the older generation to the embrace the younger generation. My generation and those that are older, when you are secure in who you are, you don't mind embracing the next generation. So that just like Janelle is passed on, now you have the baton and you run on. Now you have to pour into someone else and to another generation because there are these children now, they develop so quickly and they're mature, and there are young people that have not had a silver spoon handed to them or were not born with a silver spoon in their mouth, but they're intelligent, and we don't want the streets to teach them. There are some things, yeah, you can learn from the street, but it's not always the best thing. But we're grateful, and the area that that the business is in, they definitely need, just like with Baltimore, any other area, there, whatever area we live in, there are African American men that need this type of um, encouragement, that need this type of hope, and definitely need this type of inspiration. And it's not just Black men, it's white men, Hispanic men, whoever. If you have a mind to do the right thing, to pursue, whether it's having a PhD behind your name, a doctor or whatever, or no title at all, do it. Do it. Do what you've been created to do. Thank you so very much, Jaden. I appreciate it. Men, women, uncles, nieces, aunties, it was something for you today. It was something for you to learn. I want you, I mean, I don't want people to pass away, but I want you to see this young man in action. You know, I wanted you to see his action and how he interacts with families. One point I wanted to make is you had a couple of other young people uh, of your generation working the funeral.
Sure.
And you never heard them say, man, this, I mean, slang, none. Everything was professional. So that lets other individuals know, whether you're of a older generation or the generation of now or whoever. All of the young people, Lord, I'm not a man. All of the young people don't wear their pants halfway they're behind. Yeah, I'm gonna give it to you. Just yes, I said it. I said what I said. And if everybody, we can't categorize everyone. We can't put everyone in the same category. Okay. But I want, it would be wonderful if you would begin some type of, whether it's a group or organization, or just start with a few men that want to be successful.
Sure.
And it's not, they don't have to be successful in the funeral home business. Business is business. It takes all types of people. There are some professions that I don't care to be a part of, but whatever I am a part of, it's business ethics, communication, things that you can learn as being a part of a business, as being a CEO, as being the president. So it would be wonderful. Some of the educators out there, if you want to teach, grab some of these young people that are on the street and pour into them. We're responsible for some of what goes on in our neighborhoods. Okay, that's enough on that, because you're coming from the city that I lived in.
Sure,
I lived there, and the county that I lived there all my life. So I know what goes on, and we have some successful people there. We have educators, doctors, lawyers. The people are there, but we just need to pull on them. Get from behind your title for a moment and reach out to some of these people. Okay. Thanks again. I really appreciate it. Any last comments?
No, no, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. I'm here. If anyone has any questions about how I got started, the things that I went through, feel free to call the funeral home. I'm always here. I'm the first one here in the morning and the last one to leave, but I'm here, and I'm willing to pour. I'm willing to pour out. So again, thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. And we will definitely put your contact information in our comment section. Henry Funeral Home, just that simple. Henry Funeral Home. Beautiful people, a great staff, and impeccable service. Thanks again. Well, that is our first broadcast for today. And we are so thankful again for the opportunity to be a part of sharing hope, encouragement, and inspiration. Well, we will see you again later today, but we will definitely see you on tomorrow. Thanks again, Zhaden. I appreciate your service.